You are now tuned into Flipping the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds.
Touchdown! A.J. Brown! That's beautiful. And intercepted by the Eagles. He is hit. He's got him again! They've got him back at the 26. He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles!
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese, Zach Chavalella for the Saturday morning to preview Eagles Cowboys. But first, how you gentlemen feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. All things considered, I'm feeling fantastic. Now, what are things considered? I don't know. I ain't going to talk about it. So I'm feeling great. Eagles Dallas week. Let's go ahead. I like, the Flyers, they're doing well. Well, doing as well as they can be with their star player out of the lineup, and they did well. So I'm doing great. I like everything that's happening around it.
I'm glad that you're doing great. Sixers have lost 5 straight, coming off a Western Conference road trip. That meant 3 10 o'clock start times, with, of course, an election that I had to work for Metro Philadelphia, snug in between. Got to bed at nice old 4:30 in the morning that night.
Oh, wow.
So I'm ready for this week to be over, and I'm ready to move on to Eagles Cowboys.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, at least it's not such a gruesome matchup like in years past where it's kind of like Cowboys are on a roll, Eagles on a roll, like do the Eagles falter. This is a game where there's no Dak Prescott. There's a banged-up CeeDee Lamb, a banged-up Micah Parsons, a questionable defense on the Dallas side, right? But it's still an important game nonetheless. The Eagles have not won a game in Jerry's world since 2017, which I mentioned to Zach before the podcast. Is a little bit eye-opening. And it's not – majority of the games haven't been close. But this one in particular needs to be closer. This one in particular needs to be a win because they face the Commanders on Thursday on a short trip. Yeah, I mean, previewing Eagles Cowboys, what are the main things that need to get done for this game to be a success heading into the Commanders matchup?
I would say a lot of the same things that we've been seeing, except for Sirianni not leaving points on the table, kind of get your kicker in rhythm. Because those little points down the length of the season here, they're going to matter. And you can't just send out your kicker for 57-yard field goals when you've held them out the rest of the game and expect it to go down well. So, if Saquon Barkley, he's been fantastic. There's really no other words. You can find synonyms of fantastic. He's been those. So is Hurts. And it's because I think the offense is starting to mesh. And you're seeing these things that you would otherwise want, but you're finding ways to get and by I mean Sirianni is finding ways to get in front of the Eagles, and as far as like stopping them and getting in the way, just in different terms. Just do normal football stuff. Go for the extra point. Go for the field goal if you're in a field goal situation where it's not like a comparable 4th and 1. And, if you are being stopped on 4th and 1, learn your lesson early. That's what I'm looking for, because I think normal football things is going to be what keeps the Eagles as an engine.
Yeah, I mean, I got to agree with Eric. Like, man, just don't overthink it. Like,
right.
And I'm talking to Nick. I'm talking to Jalen. I'm talking to Kellen. I'm talking to Vic. Like, everybody, just don't overthink it. Trust your guys. Don't play A.J. Brown too many snaps. I have no ulterior fantasy related.
Wait a minute. Play A.J. normal snaps. Don't play McCaffrey anything crazy.
Luckily, Nick is not the coach for
I know. But I'm hoping some sort of 49ers exec is really watching this show right now.
As they tend to do. But, yes. I mean, really, just don't overthink it. That's it. You let the game come to you. Rely on Saquon. Get Jalen in a good rhythm. Don't be afraid to, whatever the hell's going on or not going on with his ankle. Don't be afraid to get him, moving on the ground. Just set your team up for success, and that starts with doing the obvious things early, and that starts with handing the ball off to Saquon Barkley. But just don't beat yourself, because as tough as any opponent is on a football field this Sunday, the Eagles are going to have no tougher opponent than themselves.
That's actually very true. And it's kind of like what
You
Morgan
sound
said.
surprised that I brought up a good point, but shockingly true, said Brian.
The look on his face did not say anything otherwise either.
I can't listen. I feel like me and Zach's relationship, I can't give Zach too much credit too often, because then like his head in the screen is gonna inflate to the point where we're not gonna be able to see his eyes anymore.
Buddy, it can't get any bigger. It physically cannot. We got no more room in the inn.
But if you listen to Tuesday's episode, like Morgan said something, I feel like that a lot of us heard in the past is, Kiss, keep it simple, stupid. At the end of the day, that's all you have to do. In this case, keep it Saquon stupid, how you want to do it, for my fantasy team. But I think what they're doing right now with this new rendition of the offense, it's not even a new offense, right? This is the offense that we saw them take to the Super Bowl. And it has the little bit of wrinkles from Kellen Moore with the motion, things of that sort. But we're seeing the rebirth of the RPO. We're seeing, great reads and great QB draws called. And that's your bread and butter. Like Saquon and Jalen Hurts in the backfield should be as dangerous as Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And what the Ravens have been doing this season is they've been leaning on that duo to take the offense to the next level. And now we're seeing it little by little happen in Philadelphia. In this case, in this manner, where you can actually win with play action. You have a Devontae Smith, you have an AJ Brown, you have a Jahan Dotson that I'm praying they let loose at some point, because we know he has good speed. And he can actually be a weapon. But we're seeing a growing offense because of the rushing attack, and I love the run game right now. And they got to keep it going, wear down the Cowboys defense, get into a good lead, come forth for third quarter or late third quarter, like take your starters out, be in that kind of position.
Was that Jahan Dotson or was that Brandon Lloyd on the field? I mean, geez, look at that catch, man. Brandon Lloyd, I don't remember him for too many things, but he made the most acrobatic, insane catches for no reason. So, yeah, there was quite a few plays, and I know that they asked Devonta Smith, what play stood out to him, like what he thought was the best one out of all of them, and he was just like, honestly, you can't really go back on Saquon Barkley's jumping over somebody backwards. I mean, no one does that except Saquon Barkley. You have a special player in Philadelphia, so everything Brian said, nailed it.
Now, defensively, I'm not a defensive guy, right? But like, I actually like how they're looking on defense with Zach Bond, with Cooper. I mean, since Cooper's ramp up, they've been a more elite defense. And I think it's correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, missed tackles, like it's gone down significantly with Cooper DeJean in the lineup.
Significantly. Yeah. Anthony DeBono really, for Philly Sports Network, you pointed that out. And that trend had only continued. He had initially written about that after the first, I want to say 3 weeks that Cooper had been in the mix. And then that trend has only continued. So it's been good to see for Philly.
And they're turning a corner. I mean, the pass rush is getting home. We're seeing Josh Sweat kind of reinvigorated. We're seeing Nolan Smith do things that we expected him to do. Bryce Huff is the big question mark, which is unfortunate because he's the highest paid player on that line right now. What are your expectations for this Eagles defense to take that next step going into Dallas, and then shortly after that going into Washington?
For me in this game, because of the quarterback matchup, I would normally say with Dak in there, right? Like I want to see, the secondary kind of stick in their coverages and take advantage. I do think with Cooper Rush in there, I do want to see that. But I do want to see the depth pieces on the rush kind of get in and put pressure on the quarterback as well. So specifically in that situation, what I mean is, if there is an opportunity for Jalix Hunt to get into the mix, I want to see that. I want to see what he can bring to the table, what he has to offer, because it's significant depth and rotation along that line that's going to carry this team. It doesn't really matter who it is, just as a unit. Mm-hmm. But to your point earlier about the tackling, with Cooper DeJean in the mix too, I just want to quickly give the flowers back out to Zach Bond. He has been a tackling machine all year, and he's looking like honestly the steal of all linebackers in this in regards of who moved to what team this season. Yeah, it's incredible. Honestly, like I'm very very from where I started and how I was talking about the defense to where we're at, what, week 10, week 9, whatever it is. It's just I didn't think it would be this good by then, but here we are. It's progressed.
And I feel like we talked about the idea of adding Vic Fangio for the past couple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some excitement around the idea. It was like, oh, I wonder, it's just interesting to get like the guy behind the defense, like enough of the pupils, enough of the low calorie versions. Like, let's just get the guy.
low calorie versions.
That would look like. I mean,
I like it.
what else would you call Jonathan Gannon?
I like it.
Dead on,
Like,
Zach. Low calorie versions.
So you look at Vic Fangio and what he's been able to do with this defense, which arguably has less talent than those past iterations of defenses that we've seen that have been Fangio disciple defenses. Now under the guy performing perhaps as best as they have yet, right? Incredible. Like, you have to just hopefully, and I would say, judging by his personality and his career arc, hopefully this is a guy who is happy being a defensive coordinator for the rest of his life. And I have a feeling that he will be.
It sounds like that's what the idea was with him coming to Philly, was just like staying in that position to be closer to his family.
And it's kind of closest to home for him, There's a lot of reasons why it's a beneficial position for him, right? If you can lock down two great minds at your DC and your offensive line coach, obviously with Stoutland, I mean, to have those guys and not have any worry about them being poached for head coaching jobs is an immense benefit for Philadelphia. And the fact that this team continues to seemingly get better and better each and every week against these defenses, and I get it. Like, they've played Jacksonville, they've played Cleveland, they've played the New York Giants, and I get that. But you got to play who's in front of you. And it's not that they're winning, it's how they're winning. That's the difference between this year and last year. So seeing this team moving forward, I'm very encouraged. I would like to save my complete praise until seeing them against a more dynamic quarterback, which is what Jaden Daniels will provide on Thursday. But from what we've seen so far, I feel very confident about this team's defensive performance, especially against a stationary pocket passer. And even, I'll say this, Joe Burrow, if anyone watched the Bengals-Ravens game, you saw him get out of that pocket and what he can do. He didn't do that against the Eagles, right? So all I'm saying is this team is focused, this team is locked in, and they're performing right now defensively. So even against that higher quarterback talent, I get they haven't seen a lot of it yet this year, but they do have results against them. They are positive. So as long as, again, they take care of their business and do what they're supposed to do come Sunday, I have a pretty good feeling about this game for the Eagles.
And it's funny that you mentioned Joe Burrow, right? Because looking at the stats, right, comparing the Eagles game to the Baltimore game, one, Cincinnati put up 34 points against Baltimore, who's one of the better teams in the league, right? But Joe Burrow threw 1 touchdown against Philly. He threw 4 against Baltimore. He threw 234 passing yards against Philly, 428 against Baltimore. Like, I get the idea back then, not even back then, it was a couple weeks ago, was that the Bengals were a scrub team, this and that third. They have a top 5 quarterback over there, a top 5 wide receiver there as well. And they're making, like, they're a team that comes close enough to win, but against Philly, that wasn't the case at all. And I think it speaks volumes to the change that's happened within this defense.
It does. You're absolutely right. You hit right on the head. Philadelphia's defense is sneakingly better, a lot better than I think a lot of people give him credit for. On the flip side of those things, the reason why you saw Burrow succeed against the Ravens defense was because, yes, just like Duck just said there, Baltimore's pass defense has not been good this year. So when you have, quarterbacks who have normally struggled succeed and throw for 4 touchdowns, like yada yada yardage. The same thing happened earlier this season when the two teams faced off. Isaiah Likely had a very good game earlier this season when they faced off. And since then, like, he's on my fantasy team. He's been hardly targeted, things
Oh,
like
we
that.
know he's on your fantasy team.
Yeah, I get it.
The
like,
lack of usage of Isaiah Likely will always just befuddle me. Of like, that is a weapon that is just not being utilized in Baltimore.
But it should, like, I got Gesicki after that Eagles game, and it just speaks volumes because, like, he had 27 points in fantasy, right? Like, obviously, when he became a target because T. Higgins is out, but also was targeted like 9 times against Baltimore. So clearly, like, no one's afraid to throw on Baltimore, and that's kind of the idea of the attack. So honestly, the way that the Eagles are trending right now in the air, if they can get 2 to 3 bodies on Derrick Henry, there might be ways to mitigate that. Because I do think that
that's
there is
a hell of a matchup.
Yeah,
Derrick
I know
Henry
it's gonna be
versus
tough.
Saquon Barkley, like,
yeah, that's really gonna be the thesis of that game.
that is.
So, but as far as let's get back to that. That was actually my point. That was actually my point about the whole thing about Burrow, though, was exactly what Doug said there. I was going to say the same thing until I saw that comment pop up. So lockstep, Doug. We're
had to get a Mike Gesicki shout out there as well.
Yeah, Gesicki, buddy. He got me. It went down a little bit.
ASU's own Mike Gesicki.
It not to veer too much off the subject, right? But, like, isn't it wild? Like, the 2 top offensive playmakers in the league this season were actually free agents this offseason and are actually in the running back position, and both of them actually got paid by their respective teams this year. Like, it's just mind-blowing. Like, putting the right players in the right environment, it could literally take the top off their careers. I mean, we're seeing a resurgence in Derrick Henry that we didn't see last year. We're seeing Saquon Barkley do the nastiest things that should be illegal on the football field. It's phenomenal to see. And, running backs are starting to get paid. Chuba Hubbard got paid, what was it, like $34 million, if I'm not mistaken? 4 years
Yeah,
ago?
like 32, 34, something like that.
Chuba Hubbard from Carolina? Yeah, he got a 4-year deal.
32, 34. Dude
has
fucking
Sanders,
4 arms. No
money
wonder
on
they
the
paid
bench.
him. You see that image?
What happened?
The image they posted, he looks like fucking Machamp. He's got 4 arms, and everyone's like, no wonder they paid the guy. Look at him.
Why isn't Carolina running like a triple option with all the running backs that they got down there?
Apparently, Miles Sanders
is come back yet. Once he does, they should, honestly.
Miles Sanders, like, just renaissance that man, dude. He is. I refuse to believe he is that cooked so quickly.
The problem is they have no offensive line, so you can't even. And Miles Sanders, like, Miles.
Yeah,
he's always been an offensive line grifter. Let's be honest.
That's true.
So,
that is true.
In Carolina, no offensive line. It's pretty tough.
Philadelphia has always been blessed with a pretty awesome offensive line as well, so we understand.
Apparently, according to Duck, I'm a little pee-pee hurt that my running back came to Philly. My running back is in Philly.
A little pee-pee hurt.
Little pee-pee hurt. But yes, I do think that running backs are starting to become.
Is that a little hurt or is that a little pee-pee? I gotta. These are the questions that we gotta ask.
He said a little pee-pee hurt.
What's that word talking about?
I'm a little confused myself, but I'm going to refrain from what I think. There.
Anyways, back to the matter at hand. Eagles Cowboys. It doesn't have the attention that it usually does because of the injury to Reader's Choice by Doug. Oh my God. Oh, it doesn't have the national attention it usually does because of the injury to Dak Prescott. But Cooper Rush, we did see him when he was on his little streak, and we did give him that one loss. He has a record of 4-1 as a starter. Could be considered a trap game because of that, because of the backup in there, and because of the Eagles maybe looking at the Commanders on a short week.
I mean, listen, like, you can look at any potentially easy game. I feel like, and people misdiagnose a trap game all the time, right? And you can say, well, this is a team that they could take easy and take lightly, and they could end up losing. And then, well, it was a trap game. Well, that's not necessarily like what a trap game is. I mean, the fact that this is like back-to-back division rivalry weeks, right, between Dallas and between Washington, I think the case could have been made that like you could have overlooked the Cowboys and been focused on the Commanders. Therein lies the trap. But honestly, I don't see a world where the Cowboys win this game. And I don't know if it's so much of a trap game, so much as if they win, the Eagles have once again fallen for their own trap. This is why I talked about them taking care of business, not overthinking it, right? We saw a lot of overthinking last week, and it's gonna undo this team against these inferior opponents. So if they can avoid that, they'll be fine. But I don't think that Cooper Rush is suddenly gonna throw for 300 yards outside of garbage time. I don't think that Rico Dowdle is gonna start looking like prime Ezekiel Elliott, or that Ezekiel Elliott is gonna even look like himself, or even if he'll play in the game, who knows?
Or Dalvin Cook even.
Or Dalvin Cook, they're like the ghost of themselves from the past is not coming through that door, buddy. So I don't know what they expect with this running game, and their O line is not only significantly worse than it's been, but it's continually to get beat up. Like there's not a lot of hope. Like you can say Micah Parsons is back, but like, is he? He's playing, but is he back? Like those are two different things. So,
do you think Michael Parsons will actually harm his future team?
Yeah, I mean it's tough, and he's got his good buddy Darius Slay on the other side too.
It's fair.
So who knows if he'd want to do that to a friend? But
this could be like the first negotiations out too, where it's like maybe Darius Slay to the Cowboys, and we'll just take CeeDee Lamb. I don't know, like we'll just do it.
We'll just take CeeDee. Yeah, we can definitely find
what a good fantasy football trade.
Plenty
right?
of targets for CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Smith, and AJ Brown. That won't be a problem at all.
I would love it if they found a way to bring Michael Parsons to Philly. Like that would be the ultimate like final move, like on the Thanos gauntlet. Like just seeing Howie Roseman put that last gem in there.
I will just say this.
Yeah, go ahead,
Zach. I'll just say this real quick. It's just like I don't know the way that Jerry is constructing the roster out there. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a big name that's like, dude, I need out. Like, come on, man.
As crazy as it sounds, I feel like DeMarcus Lawrence is almost more possible to come to Philly than Micah Parsons. And the reason why I say that is, so Micah's going to be a free agent, obviously. That guy's getting tagged. He's getting tagged as many times as Jerry thinks it'll take before he'll get, end up signing a contract. And I don't know that he'll ever sign that contract, but we're talking about delaying this multiple years out is the problem, right? So the odds that Philly's going to be in the financial position to do that, they're never trading Micah to Philly. That would never happen in a million years. Like the Eagles could offer every draft pick they had for the next 4 years, and the Cowboys would not trade Micah Parsons to Philadelphia. So you're looking at free agency as the only pathway there. And just with how many years out it's going to be, I mean, I don't see it, I just don't see those stars lining up. And it kind of sucks because, you kind of want Micah to play in front of his like kind of home crowd, but at the same time, like he's also not a Philly guy, like pretty admittedly by himself, not overly big on his bird, not really wanting to play in front of, his quote unquote home crowd. He's been pretty vocal about that in the past. So it's like, I don't really see him pushing that agenda. I don't really see, the Eagles would love him, but they would just love a pass rusher of his caliber. So you don't necessarily have to look there. So I think they're going to keep looking at mostly the draft. And I do wonder if Bryce Huff has kind of like calmed them a little bit on pass rushers in free agency. They're not going to turn down star, obviously, but they might be a little bit more like judicious in their selection process. So before they start handing out big money, which admittedly Bryce Huff's like deal for what was expected was a good price. It's just that he has not produced since, and now he's overpaid.
But he's a player that's
the dream for someone like him.
I'll take Eric first.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I'm sorry. That's the dream for somebody like Bryce Huff, though. It's like be very underwhelming and then get paid the whole bag. So Dallas makes tons of sense.
It's the undrafted free agent journey,
Yeah. Brian, you're up, buddy. I'm sorry.
No, shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. With Bryce Huff, it feels like he's in the wrong scheme. Like the guy likes to put his fingers in the dirt and rush that way.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yeah,
Like
5 fingers.
What
Dude.
we keep calling it the wrong scheme. Like
For
is it
him,
possible that he can't do anything but one thing? Like maybe that's
It's the
how we
wrong
should refer
scheme.
it to. Like he can't do anything but rush the like. And I'm getting a little sick of it. And Vic kind of pretty much said this at the start of the year, and I was critical of him because I'm like, you're his coach. You can't be like putting that out in the public. But he's kind of right. Like all he can do is rush the QB, and it's like that's like fine for like a regular situational pass rusher, which ideally he is, but he's not being paid to do that is the problem. So it's like I don't want to hear that like it's the scheme. Like maybe the player's just not good enough. That's kind of the problem at hand.
But my thing is like if you have this situation, right? Why not? And forgive me for saying this, but why not rotate Huff and Milton Williams? Why not move Huff a little inside? Kind of do the Brandon Graham style, where Brandon Graham used to, rush inside when it was against the run, things of that sort. Like, just move him around. Like, get creative a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you think in theory, like it. So Brandon would do that, not only like when they ran the 3-4, but even when they ran the 4-3 a little bit. You would think now that you're running like a lot of 52 that you could do that even more. But I think the problem there is the run defense would be so terrible. Like you could maybe situationally on passing downs, but I just
this is the comment of the day.
Okay, all right, okay.
I like that one.
Eric Gordon's on a minimum, so I think the expectations are a little bit.
It's more like Duck. He is paid and expect to be a star, but he is Eric Reese.
But getting back to Huff, the one problem with that plan, Brian, Milton Williams has been fucking good.
Well, I'm thinking like rotational wise,
no, but I understand. But you know who else has been good? Thomas Booker's been good.
Yes,
Jomo has been good.
Yes.
Like the biggest issue is that like there's guys who are outperforming Huff throughout the roster. Guys who coming into the year look like bottom feeders on the roster. Who knew who Thomas Booker was coming into the season? Like
except
Jomo, there was like a little excitement about, but in the kind of sense of like like a Caden Stearns who has been like all potential and never really produced, but everybody loves the concept of. Or the Eagles have had guys like that forever. Like there was a tight end. I could name names, if you give me like 5 minutes and a Google search, but like there's all these guys like, and even like we've seen it with wide receivers, guys like Paul Turner, Greg Ward.
Whoa. We're not disrespecting the legendary Paul Turner, okay?
I'm just saying.
No, I think it's respect.
There's guys like that, right? Who the fan base gets like all kind of high on.
He's a flippy do man, dude. He's gonna do flips. I'm sorry, Zach. I'm listening to what you're saying. I just
sorry, Zach. Yeah, go ahead. I got distracted.
Mark is the one who's causing the issues here.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
No, but like my point effectively is right that he's getting outperformed by guys who are making significantly less, guys who there was significantly less expected of him. So at this point, I'm not looking to experiment. I'm looking to reward the guys who are producing.
I think that's 1,000% true, man. Yeah. And one of the things that I've really liked about Fangio is he's really stressed that it's not necessarily about who's a veteran and who's the youth, it's who's producing. So and when you say, is that a guy that's going to be a defensive coordinator for, and that's the role that he wants to stay in? I hope so, because he has the mindset that fits what Philadelphia needs. Not just like this Philadelphia coach bravado. He is the coach that makes the sense.
He's a no-nonsense kind of guy. And that's why I think we can all respect Fangio, because he's in a position where it's like he's been in the league forever. He's like, he's not going to sugarcoat anything. If it's, if it's gray, it's gray. If it's blue, it's blue. Like, he's going to call it for what it is. And he's been on the money this season. Devin White wasn't who we expected him to be, right? And Devin White's on a team. Zach Bond, he called that move, and this guy's freaking phenomenal. Hopefully he doesn't price out for the Eagles and ends up staying here long term. But Kobe Dean, like, these guys, like, Fangio, like, gave us tidbits of every single person this offseason. And it's been right on the head every single time. it sucks that there's so much money invested in Huff, and we're not getting anything out of it. Honestly, what, a sack and a half I think he has.
Yeah,
but
or about 2
yeah.
maybe, but it stops at 2.
Yeah,
maybe
like,
another
I'm
half
just
sack.
curious to see, like,
I mean, the way he rushes is definitely not more than 2.
No,
Yeah,
definitely not. But you got to squeeze some juice out of this. Like, if he's here, like, you got to make something happen. Like, just I don't know.
Gotta
That's
squeeze
just
the
my
juice out of
thinking
this guy.
about it.
Yeah. Can I draw a correlation here now that we're talking about Vic Fangio?
yeah, absolutely.
And bear with me because this may seem controversial to some. I don't think it'll seem controversial to my lovely co-host here, but
Please say Torts.
no, Buddy Ryan. Like,
Okay.
is there like a little bit of that, like, Buddy Ryan, like, I don't give a shit what anyone thinks.
No.
I'm gonna do things my way, that Vic Fangio has, that is refreshing, but also because it's not in a head coaching capacity, is able to succeed in the modern NFL. Because I feel like everyone wants a Buddy Ryan, but that kind of coach really can't thrive in the current NFL. But if you bring that in as a defensive coordinator, I think that's a little bit of what Vic has. You're able to almost kind of get away with it, if that makes sense.
I think there's a respectable amount of it in it, which is I think it's what makes Fangio so great for the Eagles, because he's a no nonsense kind of guy, right? But
you can't just be having anyone in that defense though, because we saw that with Miami.
It's not for the weak hearted, right? It's not for the folks that are sensitive, and that's what I love about it, because anybody who doesn't fit the Philly mold is not going to survive. Devin White didn't survive, right? Bryce Huff is barely surviving. You got to fit a certain mold to be a part of this team. And oh god, here goes the guys.
Can I cause one more distraction? I do want to address Martian's Sixers comment super quick.
I will let you address that if you set the record straight about the Giants BS.
All right.
It's not just Martian who
I have a talking point on my mind.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, perfect. All right, so Martian, asking about Glenn Rivers or Darvin Ham, if they're a worse or just as bad pairing as Nick Nurse and Rico Hines, right? Okay, first of all, I have several criticisms of how Nick Nurse has handled the rotations this season. With that being said, Doc Rivers, as Martian referred to him, Glenn Rivers and Darvin Ham, significantly worse. And one of the biggest reasons you'll see why, not only look at how deep that team is with guys like Bobby Portis, Brooke Lopez, guys like Andre Jackson Jr. and Marjan Beauchamp, who flip back and forth between being benched, even though they're strong defensive young talents. You have a healthy Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard. Whereas the Sixers have had an unhealthy Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey. So you can say that the Sixers have underwhelmed even beyond the lack of health. Like, you can't – the buck has to stop at some point about the injuries. Like, there is a sheer lack of performance happening in Philadelphia as well, and Nick Nurse should be held responsible for that. But man, is Milwaukee a mess. An absolute ridiculous mess. And that starts with Glenn Rivers. All right, time's yours, Brian.
I think Duck cleared it up for Brian, to be honest with you.
Leave my Mets alone, damn it.
No, yeah. One of the things, back to the whole, what was it, the Buddy Ryan point. I think with Buddy Ryan and the comparison to Fangio is Fangio sticks in his lane and is responsible for his lane and doesn't overdo it. Buddy Ryan, made himself the star of the show. He made himself the main character, as the kids would say these days, right? Mm-hmm. It was we don't care about offense because I'm Buddy Ryan. I'm a defense guy, and I know the decisions here, in regards to Chris Carter not being an Eagle, it ended up saving Chris Carter's life. Really, if you really listen to his story, but at the same time, it's Chris Carter went out and did things that we later saw years down the line from a TO. And he did it in Philly. And how could you not care about that? I think I don't know. Like it's just it would have been like if we're making the comparison between Buddy Ryan and Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio is not committing malpractice, even at his own job. When Buddy Ryan had control of the whole team and committed malpractice, pretty much for the most part, that team should have been a lot better than what it was with the talent that was there. So no, I don't make the comparison at all. I think Fangio is an old school mind, but he's not afraid to mix it up, and he's clearly done it, and he's clearly said it too. So it's matched with the youth. He's not predicated on the I have my players that I want to play, and and he doesn't think that if those players don't perform, that there's not a place on the bench for them. So I do think that he has a balance to it, and the whole Buddy Ryan kind of comparison, there was never a balance.
You know what I like about Fangio is that of the group of coordinators we've had in Philly, right, or even a group of coaches that we've had under Sirianni, is he doesn't play coy. Like, there's no secrets when it comes to what's going on with the defense when it comes to Fangio, and I love that about it. Like, if a guy like Sidney Brown is not ready, he's going to tell you, no, we're still, ramping up. As opposed to like what Nick Sirianni's done is, like the whole Jalen Hurts issue with the ankle. It was an ankle injury, but it's rest, or like injury reports. You guys will find out later about injuries. Like Fangio gives you the raw, unfiltered stuff, and I feel like Philadelphia appreciates that so much more, even as a fan to any ball club. Like I love it when head coaches or even GMs tell you the truth, because one way or another, it's going to come out. Like we're going to hear about it. But if we can hear about it from the horse's mouth, it works so much better for your fan base as well as to your coaches.
Do you really believe that there was a ankle issue with Hurts?
That was
Do you really believe? Do you think it's a fumble, or do you think the guy was just like, I thought it was an injury, but it was a rest, so he misspoke? I think it's more of a misspeak.
I think it's a misspeak, but
Nick Sirianni misspeak.
Well, I know, Zach, and I get it, right? There's
the
opportunity
Saquon,
that you could jump on it, but I don't think there was any malicious intent there. I think the guy was just like, I thought it was something, but it ended up being nothing. Shame on me. I misspoke and I misrepresented what it was.
But it's like the Saquon rest. Like we know with Saquon, it's the touches, and also Saquon said that when he hit that hurdle, his back was hurting a little bit. So we know the rest is correlated with that. So I feel like it's similar enough where it's like, it's not a dire injury, but it's a football, like it's just football soreness. Like, the guy, and that leap in the end zone could have, landed on his ankle wrong, something of that sort. But just Nick's just not having a good season with the press.
No, but he never really does, though. And the thing is, by the way, it's like week 10, and the quarterback's ankle could hurt a tad, but it's nothing to be a injury designation. That's what you're looking for when you want to report these things. You're not looking for, does the football player hurt playing football? Yeah, probably. Like that's kind of like, what are we talking about here? We need to make a hot take. No, you don't. He's fine.
He looked healthy enough when he leaped into the end zone, on Sunday. So I think the ankle's doing fine. Like everybody's nicked up at this point in the season, right? So there's gonna be, even if it was something like as simple as like he just had not even a limp, because like guys were, I forget who it was. It was someone loud, so it was probably Howard Eskin, just talking about how he doesn't have like a noticeable limp. Like, yeah, I'm sure he's just like beat up at this point in the season. So the report, I think it was Tim McManus that came out later, like Jalen Hurts has been dealing with an ankle injury for the past 2 weeks. I was like, are you hurt or are you injured, right? So I think his ankle's hurt. I don't think it's injured though, right? And then when you're talking about, and this is going to sound weird coming from a media member, the least important thing for the head coach is that he has smooth communications with the media. I'll be flat honest with you. Like, I would love it if they did. And this is coming from someone who's first-handedly dealing with the frustration of how the Sixers have handled the injury situation in Philadelphia. It is much more important how the coach relates to those players and how the entire team performs on the field than how the coach relates to the media members in those interviews, right? So ideally, yeah, he speaks better in front of the media. He addresses questions in a better way, in a less controversial way. that being said, like the guy, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know if Nick was like overly listening at that point in the conversation. Like he seemed
He
distracted.
seemed like checked out a bit. And if the issue
He's
with Nick
ready
is
for
that
game day, dude. He's
And
ready
it's
for game
fine.
day.
Like it's whatever. Like I
Yeah.
don't give like I don't care. Like I get that there's like that's disrespectful to the media if that's what it was and this and that. Like it is what it is. You know, sometimes people get lost in thought. You know, and whatever truly happened that led to that slip. You know, by Nick. Like Jalen's fine at the end of the day. So the whole thing's fine. The whole thing just got overblown.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and to that point, by the way, that you made sort of about press and the coaches talking about, those kind of injuries. Again, I'm going to use as far as, the experience that I've had just being in the room when Tortorella speaks. You know how many times people ask, about the status of a player and Tortorella is like body? Because he doesn't care to tell you. Like, he's like, yeah, you know what? He might be day-to-day with a thing. So day-to-day body, upper body, lower body. He'll just repeat it. He'll repeat it and spam you with it until you shut up. Because why? Because if it's a big thing, you know who's going to tell you about it? Danny Bruguera is going to tell you about how Cam York is out 2 weeks. Okay? If you want the transparency, it should probably come from somebody like him and not the coach who's focused on winning the damn game.
Well, that's a great point, and that's something that you really didn't see with the Sixers, right, in this whole situation with Joel Embiid and to a lesser degree Paul George. I mean, even Tyrese Maxey with how his hamstring injury was, and that news came out pretty quick. But the initial word from Nick Nurse was a little bit, to the contrary. But it is up to the GMs, the president of operations, like those guys who, really should be handling that because it's frankly like not the coach's job. The coach is not a part of the medical staff, right?
Right.
So it should not be a part of the coach's job to have to explain every fine detail of the player's injury and when they'll be back and this and that. Like surface level stuff, I totally get that. Which exactly what you said to Torts, talking about lower body injury and this and that. The Sixers, and we'll get back to the Eagles in just a second. The Sixers needed to be more transparent about what happened with their injury situation. But again, that's not just on Nick Nurse. That's also on Daryl Morey for not speaking and not addressing the media, not addressing the public, right? So that's an issue. Talking about a slip and saying Jalen's ankle, like when he was actually out for rest, and has no noticeable limp. It's not affecting him in game, obviously. Like that's just looking for a story. Like that's a complete non-story. Like you want a story around that. Like that's what you have with the Sixers. Right. You don't have that in this case with the Eagles.
Fair. I completely agree with that. He's having a rough year with the press, and I get the issue with Nick is Nick over explains everything.
Can't get that man. You got to like put some peanut butter in his mouth before he gets up on the stage there. Like
just over explains everything. Doug Peterson was a wizard. Like Doug Peterson was week to week, day to day. That's it. We hated it, but he got to the point with everything.
He won a Super Bowl because he was focused. Quite frank.
Yeah, that's very true. He knew the room that he was entering, and like Doug alluded to, like Nick does have to be aware that when you enter the media room, you're entering the lion's den, and they're hungry for something and anything. I mean, being in that room, they're very, very, very hungry to get you to slip up. But back to the Eagles. It's Eric's favorite time of the day.
We have to say that so much in this podcast.
This has been a universal
segment. This is Eric's favorite part. Is that what we're talking about? The fantasy? We're talking about fantasy football now?
No, we passed that. But Zach and I do play each other this week, and boy, is it going to be close.
It is, but I got a good feeling about Eric.
I think
I have a good feeling about you. I feel like my kicker's let me down. My kicker has let me down.
I'm a little.
I don't know why I'm bitching about a kicker, but my kicker has let me down.
Yeah.
Eagles Cowboys prediction.
Oh yeah, that's happening. Yeah.
You
guys want to walk through your predictions first?
I'll go 28-17. I don't think the Eagles score past 30, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's one of those things where we get off to a big lead, come third quarter, they start, dialing it back a little bit. Garbage time touchdowns by Cooper Rush, not really a concern because it's too little too late. But 28-17, and the main thing I'm looking for is you got to get to a big lead come halftime. Start fast, end strong. Get Jalen Hurts out of the game in the fourth quarter. Get Saquon out of the game in the fourth quarter. Get your starters out. AJ Brown, Devontae. Dallas, because we know Dallas is, it's been injury riddled lately. Get these guys out by the fourth quarter and just keep it simple. Go for the extra point. No need for 2-point conversions. You don't have to be over aggressive. You just got to stick to your game plan, win the game. That way, come Monday, you guys could turn around, come back to Philly, and focus on taking first place back against the Commanders.
I don't know if it's going to be either the team going for 2 and missing, which is very much a possibility, or if it's going to be Nick turning back to Jake Elliott again. But we're getting 27 from Philadelphia in this game, I feel, right? So we're not getting, and whether it's 4 touchdowns and, like I said, that mixed 2-point conversion, or we're getting a couple field goals, I'm feeling 27. And I'm feeling 27-10 Eagles over Cowboys. I just don't think the Cowboys have anything offensively that can compete with Philadelphia. If Vic Fangio really cues in on not only getting the pass rush in Cooper's face, but on top of that, like just blocking off CeeDee Lamb and doing whatever you can to restrict him. I mean, who is going to go off for Dallas? Jalen Tolbert? Like, no. There's not going to be anyone who's going to have that opportunity. So I feel very confident in this game. So 27-10 Eagles.
Yeah, I was going to say like 43-3 Eagles, but I think
Eric's playing Madden.
But I think because Dak is not playing, there's an improvement. So it might be like 43-10. But also Zeke and Dalvin Cook are probably not going to start, right? So it's probably going to be 43-17. But then you got to think that like their kicker's not bad, right? So like could be like 43-20. But also like Nick Sirianni is going to get in the way and he's going to do some dumb stuff. So I think at the end of the day here, what I'll say is probably 38-20 Philadelphia Eagles.
I love how this turned into a math problem. Subtracting and adding.
Just 5 points though, because that's kind of what was left on the table last time.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, so we have our predictions in. We do believe that the Eagles will win this game. And then all eyes are going to be on Washington, which I'm assuming now Tuesday's episode does become a preview / recap for the Washington game. It's a big week. It's a really big week for the Eagles, and they got to put their money where their mouth is. They've done very well the last several weeks. The defense, I think, is probably the #1 ranked defense since the bye week, if I'm not mistaken, or top 5 at least. Jalen Hurts is coming along. They just got to stick to the game plan and keep trucking along. Any final thoughts before we wrap up the show?
Just don't beat yourself. That's all the Eagles need to focus on. Like, just let the game come to you. And I said this in the beginning, and I'm going to say it every chance that I get until the game's over. But like that's your toughest opponent is yourself on Sunday. Yep. So just let the game come to you.
1,000% agree on that. What Zach said there, it's just do your normal football things and take the points when it's there, and you're going to win this game probably by a wide margin if you keep playing the way that you have. It's another team. Right? Everybody says it's a rivalry game. Yeah, okay, fine. But it's not the best Dallas version of this Dallas Cowboys team. And this Dallas Cowboys team is not good. So, in that sense, if you just do the normal football things and stop overthinking it, you're right, Brian. You probably should have the Eagles in there, the backups in there in the fourth quarter. Will they do it in a rivalry game? Not so sure. But at the same time, it would be an extra little bit of insult, when someone's down, to put the backups in a week, whatever this is, game against a rivalry team with the game in the bag. So yeah, just don't do anything too crazy, and don't invite the opposition back in the game like with Jacksonville.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. And if you guys are on the YouTube channel right now, please make sure to give us a thumbs up. If you're on Twitter, please make sure to retweet it, like it, do all the above. And we appreciate you guys for tuning in Saturday morning. I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese, Zach Chavalella, and we are Flipping the Birds.
Go Birds!
Yes, sir.
Flip